the guy!
Stop saying you're the guy. We all know that you're not the guy.
He's not the guy. I am.
And you are?
I'm the guy. The real guy.
After cosplaying as the Avatar and disappearing for the last 100 years, when the YouTube space needed him most, the YouTube Black God sent Golden Goose known as CoryxKenshin returned to the YouTube space like Aang returning to the world screaming, "See, I am not dead," close to the end of 2024. It truly was a monumental moment for all those samurais who have been feeding for some CoryxKenshin content since the year of, I want to say, 2014, 2013. I don't know what the year is, but I'll put it on the screen for context for those and just to remind you that he left you behind. And what I call the year of the great samurai disappearance.
This year, I lost my dear husband, Edgar.
Quit telling everyone I'm dead!
Sometimes I can still hear his voice.
And with his return, he brought forth the reason why he's been gone for so long. On December 13th of 2024, he finally broke the silence of why he returned back to the YouTube platform and announced that he has been cooking up a manga with his own story and has been working with his own personal team or team of animators to bring the story to life. Now, me being inspired by his drive and delivery and me and him having similar goals in their own right, he hypnotized me to spend my last $20 in my measly, barely unemployed bank account and decided to give his manga a try, especially since I'm a particular fan of this genre of storytelling. One of my favorite series to this date is Tokyo Ghoul before they butchered it beyond repair.
What's this? Huh? What the fuck is this, motherfucker?
Also, I feel like I would be a great person to read and review this comic because I am not exactly a CoryxKenshin fan. Now put your pitchforks down. I know, I'm a fraudulent blurred. Now I'm not saying I'm not a fan in the sense that I dislike his content. I'm actually kind of a fan of his content. I actually really like his content. I do find him pretty funny. But I just only found out his content or started watching his content recently, like in 2019, 2020, or it might even be more recent than that. I don't remember when I started. I just know it wasn't for very long. I just never really grew up with this kind of channel because I just never really grew up or followed his channel that closely, even though I was well aware of his name. I was more watching YouTubers like PewDiePie, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, Burleezy, Vanoss, and all those other guys, all in different veins, and he just didn't really fall on my radar. Also, I have a very unhealthy tendency to reject anything that has a massive amount of support or glaze. I'm that guy during middle school that absolutely loathed the Twilight series and the great gracious singer known as Justin Bieber back in the day because everyone and everywhere I went, all I heard was just amounts and amounts of glaze for these series and celebrities. It's because of that habit is the reason why I have never watched past one episode of Game of Thrones, and I will never, ever finish it. It would have to be a decision of my own accord. Anyways, I feel like I would give a very fair perspective on his work. Other than that, let's get into my review of Monsters We Make, CoryxKenshin's manga. Our main guy, Jabari Brooke, has been enrolled into New Eden Academy because of his prodigious level of proficiency in music and various other physical arts. His family moved to New Eden to compensate for his dad's new job at the company known as Sonata. After entering the school and meeting new characters like Liam and September, Jabari is tested again in his skills. Despite multiple warnings from September and other characters, he aces his tests and meets the principal of the school known as Madam Dean. She tells him the main reason for the school's existence, a facility built to find the best of the best to become the soldiers to fight against some of the most gruesome, terrible, and evil monstrosities to exist in New Eden known as leakers. He learns that there are people out there turning into these creatures and they are supposed to fight against them and learn why they exist. He's shown how terrible this job is, Madam Dean displaying all of the previous teens before him, showing how they were brutally massacred one by one. Of course, naturally, Jabari is furious and confused. He didn't sign up for any of this. He came here to help better his own life, and not only his life but his family family life, got a full ride and everything, only for none of that to matter, and he's being thrusted into this environment against his will. As he's about to say hell with everything and was about to make his steps to leave the school and go on his own merry way, Madame D makes a slick remark knowing of Jabari's dad's new job and makes a vague threat to his family. This makes Jabari reluctantly accept her terms and from then becomes a hound for New Eden Academy. That right there is the general synopsis of the plot of the manga. In the rest of the video, I'm going to talk about certain parts of the manga in some detail, so if you wish to read it yourself, this is a soft spoiler warning just in case. I'm not going to talk about too much depth of the details, I'm just going to slide in some examples to accentuate some of the points I'm going to make later on. I finished the first volume of the manga around the same month of Cory's return, but I had to deal with some personal shaboing, so that's why this video is a bit late. First off, let me get started with the positives. First of all, I really like the designs of each characters, especially Jabari's and my new chocolate waifu Note of September. I don't know who drew her, but she is one of the best drawn characters so far in my personal opinion. Forgive me, I'm biased.
She's so fine, she done pissing me off! How are you that fine?
Each one of them feel like they give off their own style and personality, so that you don't feel like you're looking at characters who are just cut from the same cloth, just in different fonts. Also, the environments, backgrounds, and details of certain panels are really well done, especially during action sequences. The dynamic lines, impacts, and curves feel like you can actually see the weight of any of the characters' high-speed movements. Bro, so far one of my favorite panels is with Jabari and Ellison. Both characters have already been butting heads since they met each other, and after Jabari's first major fight and accidentally thrusts himself and the rest of his alpha team into the sewers below the city, him and Ellison go at it in a pretty epic bout because tensions were just running up high, super high in that moment. However, as much as I liked a lot of the manga, there are some things I wasn't so much of a fan of. Yes, the action in the manga is fast, versatile, full of impact, creative team combos, and yet, to me, it's pretty hard to follow. There are some panels I found myself confused on how certain characters got to the certain position that they are in that moment. Prime example is the first time Jabari enters the field as a hound. He's on a roof, then he meets face to face with the leaker that the alpha team was already fighting. He fights it for a bit, does a high frequency epic ultimate move, flies through a wall, and somehow was able to make a crater that led into the sewers that swallowed the leaker and his team. Now, maybe it's just me, but during that altercation, I didn't get a clear idea on what position he is in to be sent flying through a wall in the first place. Also, we haven't gotten much idea on where we are in New Eden entirely, so we as a reader don't get to make a mental note on how the locations play a role in the story overall. Say in a later volume, Cory wants to make a point to call back to this location in chapter 5 or 6 or 7, and we just thought it was just a random regular location that the leaker just happened to be. However, we find out later on in later volumes that it actually was a very important location, but we don't get the idea of that until that situation occurs, and we don't get to make a point of it in that moment to think like, oh, this location may be important and we should look forward to seeing this come back in later on in the story. So then when the characters go back to that location, we don't get the instant thought in our mind or even just a semblance of an idea saying, oh right, we're back here again. We should really be thinking about what's going to happen here now, because this location is very important. Which leads me to the plot of the story overall. I see a lot of potential for the story to go in many interesting directions, but so far I'm getting a fairly generic dark shonen type manga, or maybe a very basic seinen. So far while I was reading, I could guess what was going to happen in the next few panels pretty easily, which I will say isn't necessarily a bad thing, because in the next volume, Cory can easily throw in some pretty fire and nasty cool curveballs at us at a point that it feels like he was just leading us to the unexpected moment, leading us with a breadcrumb trail that we can see from a mile away, but then later on in the midst of us predicting what could happen next, we get sent to a completely different direction. So I will say that can easily change as we go along as he continues to write more chapters as he writes. Also, I do see a lot of inspiration from mangas like Chainsaw Man, Tokyo Ghoul, or even Naruto, so I can understand like a lot of the points that he's trying to make is that maybe there are some points and maybe some stories that he's very familiar with that he likes to follow along the lines of that until he can find a way to make it his own. My only other gripe with the manga is the dialogue. I think it is okay. I'm a stickler with dialogue, so don't take it too personally. I just think it's a little bit goofy sometimes when I'm seeing lines that come through like talking about how to avoid wearing underwear that has showing off skid marks as you're walking through. I was not expecting to see that in my manga, Cory. You want to talk about skid marks? Why are we talking about that, bro? Just clean your booty. Just clean it well. Overall, the flow of the both conversations seemed to flow pretty nicely between each other, and I don't think I ran into any confusion at all on wondering who is speaking to who. For me, it's more of just a word choice for me, but that is more of like a nitpick for me, so don't take that too deeply or take that criticism too harshly. If I had to give the manga a rating at the moment out of 10, I would probably give it a solid strong 6. It does good enough just to be above average, but it still needs a little bit more to actually make a name for itself. Right now, our boy Cory just needs to work on building a unique reason why we should follow this story so deeply in the first place. So far, as cool as it may be, his characters are still relatively close to just being general generic character stereotypes. The nerdy tech guy, the cool-headed leader, the overly exaggerated hothead, and the loving nature girl, and the overly hyperactive knucklehead MC. Therefore, you gotta try or build to something that will solidify the reason why we should root for any of these characters, because so far they're all are just somewhat in the same boat with the same problem. Also, the city needs to be a little bit more fleshed out. Build on the importance of key locations and other events. So far, the only major event that has been referenced is the Eternal Night, which is the main prospect of how people got powers in the story, and you get a general idea what it is in the first chapter. But outside of that, we don't hear about any other events, how the world really changed because of these events. But nonetheless, those things need a little bit more fleshing out for me. We want to be able to ask questions like, are there any rebellious organizations? Are there people who can willingly switch between being a leaker and a human? What is the general great purpose of the school? Are there other organizations besides Sonata? These are questions that you want people to be able to be asking as they read. Build upon the significance of the locations, these places, these events, and soon enough link those characters into those lingering mysteries. But that's pretty much most of my thoughts on the manga. I might do a second video later, or I might just wait until he drops volume 2. For those who bought it and read it, what do you guys think about the manga? What do you guys think our boy Cory needs to work on? Leave a comment and I'd love to discuss it with y'all. I'm going to reread it again to get a better feel of what I feel about the story. Right now, this is just still off of just the first read, so I might read it 1 or 2 more times to actually get a deeper feel of it. I may even do a more detailed review later on. Also, do not forget to subscribe. Also, I know I'm very late. It's close to the end of February by the time I'm uploading this video. Happy year 2025. It's your boy Kadukun. Make sure you keep your power levels high and your dreams alive. I'll see you guys next time in the next video. Peace.
FMA, handle business, don't play. On point when it comes to the anime. Jack and Daxter, ayy, let's go. The ultimate heroes, don't stop, we on the road. Kadukun.